Welcome to As the Chakras Spin, a podcast that connects life's experiences as they relate to the seven major chakras physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, and spiritually. I am your host, Tashi K.D. Cooper.
Peace and light, everyone. My name is Tashi K. D. Cooper, and I am the vibrational midwife, aka Reiki Woman. Yes. So we are back, y'all. We are back with another episode of As the Chakras Spin. Okay. Wow, wait a minute. Let me think about this. So, this is the heart chakra. So, I want to say this is episode 21. Is it 21? Boom shakalak. Okay, okay. So heart chakra. The heart is located at the center of the chest. Okay. Now the heart chakra is located at the center of the chest. It does point out anteriorly and goes posteriorly. Traditionally, the color is green. Okay, in most textbooks, the color is green. But sometimes you may see the color pink. All right. And sometimes you might see the color gold, like a golden yellow. And what that means is it depends on if you're a seer, if you're someone who can see energy, then green is just love for all, right? And if you see the color pink dominating around someone's heart chakra, it's probably because they're focusing on self-love, all right? And then if you see a golden color, they have grown in such a way that they have unconditional love for all. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, body parts associated with the heart would be, with the heart chakra, would be the heart, the lungs, your arms and hands. Okay, those are the body parts. Some of the body parts associated. You have the pericardium as well, but those are just some to list for now. Okay, qualities associated would be forgiveness, healing, kindness, being kind to others, and being kind to self. And when I say forgiveness, I mean forgiving others and forgiving self. Okay. Um, Being trustworthy lives here. Giving of yourself lives here. Learning how to receive as well. Love for self and love for others. Okay. So those are just a little things to go by in terms of qualities and body parts. The lists are not exhaustive, so there may be more body parts and more qualities. We're going to go ahead and get on with the show because you know how I do. Okay? All right. I know you're wondering who's the handsome dude on screen with me, huh? And if you're listening and you follow, you know there's someone with me today because I always have a guest most times. All right. Born and raised in Lakeview Terrace, California, 818 to be exact, area code. Yes. My guest is a fashion aficionado, the dopest content creator to get ready with, and an overall stellar human being. I want y'all to put your hands together for Jonathan Lason Wright. Woo! Hey, Jonathan.
Hello, Tashi. How are you?
I am well. I am well. Thank you so much, John, for being a guest on As the Chakras Spin. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to
Yes.
be here. Let's get it started.
Let's get it started. Boom, shakalak. All right. So, okay, audience. I met my guest when I was 7 years old, almost eight. He was the first baby I ever held. He instantly lit up my heart and still does. I adored and loved him then, and you can multiply that times infinity now. He is my cousin who is more like a brother to me as well as a super cool friend. And I am excited, moved, and honored that he has joined me today because he is open to sharing a bit of his heart with us. Please note that some of the topics and subjects may be triggering for some of y'all, so tune in with caution. All right? John was a single parent who lost his son, Jonathan Justice Wright, in 2019 from a drug overdose. So, we will look at grief today and the different ways people mourn past over loved ones and heal. And please keep in mind that this is his story, his perspective. Yours may look and feel very different. Jonathan will share the stages of grief that he learned via grief counseling and how some of those phases looked and currently look for him today. I, like many people, never really know what to say to grieving individuals. Through the years, I've learned to say just that. Please pardon me. I don't know what to say, but just know that I'm there for you. And if you want to talk, feel free to reach out. And I'm praying for you and your family, right? Jonathan will share his experience and perspective of things or words to avoid when consoling someone from his perspective. Remember that, okay? And lastly, we are going to touch upon the concept of grieving a past self, as hopefully during your current lifetime, you experience growth, elevation, and ascension through learning lessons, unlearning dysfunctional tendencies, habits, and behaviors, and choosing to truly love yourself. Sometimes growth can be triggering to self and others, and we're going to talk about it along with what kindness looks like towards oneself and others. Okay, so Jonathan, during a previous conversation, you told me that you actually grieved the absence of your son Jonathan before he passed away. Upon your comfort level, will you please share the circumstances that led to that initial grieving process?
Yes, my son, I can't remember the dates, but around 2015, 2014 is when our issues began to get out of my control. So I never had it under control, but it was to the point where, not going to necessarily say you give up, but it was getting to a place where there wasn't anything that I can do. So at this time, what I mean by that is Jonathan had been in and out of trouble, maybe suspended from school, maybe run away from home and all that kind of stuff. But at this point, it had gotten to a point where an altercation happened at the house and he left the house angry, and he did not return because he did something at a mall. He went to the mall around the corner from our house, and that's when he got, I don't know the nice, incarcerated. I was gonna say locked up because I'm very matter of fact, but
Yeah, be you,
incarcerated.
be you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but because he was a minor, he didn't go to jail. He went to a juvenile hall facility,
Okay.
and so during that time, that was when slowly but surely, because that was almost a year to a 2 year stint that he had, and that was when the grieving process for me started. I wasn't aware of it. You're just going through the motions. The I didn't have the knowledge, so it wasn't like I had read a book or I was given information to let me know that this was going to happen. It was just something that was happening, and then later on I was like, oh, that's what was going on there. And so what it was that prior to that, um, when you're having issues. Like I said, he was running away from home, and maybe I didn't know where he was at or what was going on, or the back and forth, up and down. You know, he's still, even though he may not be in the house for a couple of days or a week or whatever, there's still this thing where he was present, present in my mind, present in my life. And then just all of a sudden, abruptly, he's not here, and
Yeah.
there's nothing that I can do under within my control to just either go get him, go find him, demand that he come here or anything like that. It was like he's away and he's not coming back for a while. And so just like
Right.
with him not being in the house, with him not being here, with him not being in his room, with him not being able, just a phone call away, even before, it was like he did have a cell phone, so I would, or I could get a random call from him. And now, if I did get a call from him, it was not random, but specific, because he was calling from the juvenile hall detention center. And but I did visit. We did visit him. My mother and I. We did visit him. Uh, I want to believe we would go every Sunday or every other Sunday, but still,
Okay.
what I didn't know at the time and what ended up happening is that our relationship, whether it was fractured or not, whatever the relationship was, it was never going to be the same after this.
Sure.
It was never
Okay.
going to be the same after that. And so, just during that year and a half, 2 year process, because he went to, the reason why I'm saying year and a half, 2 year, because he went from one facility to another. And
Okay.
so there were different experiences at different facilities,
Sure.
and until his final release. And even when he was released, he wasn't released to me. He was released to, they have what they call, I guess it's called a halfway house or whatever type of situation, where you have to go through that before you have to go through that program. And then they have to sign off and say that they feel or think, they believe that you're ready to enter into the real world. But
Sure.
within those situations, you have to follow their rules and go through things. And he did make it out of that, but not into my custody or my care, because he actually did not want to follow their rules, and he just left. And so there he was, just out on his own, to where we
Okay.
didn't know where he was or what was going on with him until I got the phone call that he had passed away. So
Right.
I say,
Okay.
so that's when I say, and what I mean by the relationship, the father and son relationship, him living in the house, him being in the house, that day to day activity, it was never going to be the same after that. And
Sure.
so during that process, there was a grieving process of,
Sure.
it was very different. His presence is not here. He's not around. Our relationship is completely different. And it will never be what it was. And it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yes. Okay. So let me ask you this. Was the process of grieving Jonathan once he made his transition much different, knowing that he wasn't suffering anymore and you didn't have to wonder if he was safe or not? Or was it more intense because of its finality?
A little bit of everything. So
Okay.
there was a point in time when he was incarcerated, that although the grieving process did begin after a while, there was a sense of sigh and relief, because when he would run away or whatever, so I did not know where he was or what he was
Sure.
doing or what was being done to him. So those were those nights and those days, weeks and months, they were very worrisome on my nervous system. During that time period, I began having what they call peptic ulcers. which is basically where the acidity in your stomach levels are so high that it could, where you'll find blood in your stool and things of that nature, and they flare up and all that kind of stuff. And I was experiencing all of that because it was the stress of the situation of
Sure.
not knowing, and to be honest with you, being almost helpless, in a situation. And so when he was incarcerated, I knew where he was at, but Jonathan was a handful. So when he was incarcerated, there was another level of worry because there were issues or problems there, in there with like, is he? I think there was just a lot going on, just
A
with him
lot.
being in trouble with the staff or having run-ins and with the other juveniles that were there and stuff like that. So, but there were other people around, and I'm not saying that left me with no worry, but less. But then all that changed when he got out and he left because then he's out there
Sure.
amongst everything and everyone. And I remember a week before his passing, he randomly showed up at the house to visit my mother and I had a conversation with him. And I remember this conversation. I said, I know you don't want to listen to me because you think I don't know what I'm talking about, but mark my words. I said, I'm going to get one of two phone calls if you don't start making some changes in your life. I said, one of them is going to be that either you are now going to be incarcerated again, but now you are of age. So now you're not going to be with other juveniles or children. You're going to be with grown men. And that's a whole nother ball game and a whole nother situation that I can't protect you from or save you from. And that's something that I know you're not going to want to deal with. I said, and then the other option is they're going to call me and tell me that you're dead. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're
Right,
talking
right.
about. Don't worry. That's your problem. You worry too much. Calm down. And
Mm.
a week later, I got the phone call, and it was the second scenario.
Yes. Mm. And for the audience, can you tell us the Jonathan his age when he was incarcerated the first time, initially with the first facility, and then
16.
how old he was when he passed away?
16 when they started the process of incarceration, and I can't remember the age or the ages of the first one to the second one, but I know once he was
Yeah.
at the second one and then was released, because I thought when I was speaking with the people back and forth when they were trying to figure out what the release date was and what it was going to be and how it was going to go down, the person that I was speaking with, um, we were under the assumption that they were going to keep him a little bit longer because they didn't feel like he was ready. But then all of a sudden, I get a random phone call from him 2 weeks before his 18th birthday saying that they were going to release him. And
Okay.
so I guess it was because of his age of being 18, and maybe with
Oh.
some of the issues that they were having with him, they were like, this isn't our issue or
Yeah.
problem anymore. So, and we done all we can do, so
Sure.
I remember that. And he was released, I want to say shortly after. When I say shortly after, maybe a day or two after his 18th birthday, and he did not make it to see his 19th.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So I know that you sought out grief counseling. I have a three-part question.
Okay.
How soon did you attend the counseling sessions after Jonathan's transition? One. Two, was it a concept you initially rejected or were you open to receiving the counseling? And lastly, please share some takeaways from the counseling sessions that helped you during the initial grieving process and even today. So, one, to repeat, how soon did you attend the counseling after he passed away?
A month and a half, because I
About a
have
month and
to,
a half?
about a month and a half. And it was never anything that I rejected because I grew up in therapy or counseling, even though
Okay.
when I went through it as a child, I really wasn't until the end that much of a willing participant. It
Okay.
was something that was forced upon me because I got in trouble a little bit, maybe a lot, as a child. uh, but it wasn't until I got with a therapist that I really had a bond and connection with that I didn't mind.
Sure.
I didn't mind doing it. And I actually liked it.
And this
But
is when you were younger, right?
this is when I was younger. And so the
Okay.
thought of doing the grief therapy once he passed away was something that once he passed away, it was like once I get everything situated, once everybody leaves California and goes back to where they came from, and I was like, I'm going to do it because prior to my mom lost an ex-husband and decided to go to grief therapy because she realized that she was having a hard time with it. And I wasn't having, in my opinion, a hard time with it. But everybody around me seemed to have an issue with the way that I was grieving. I wasn't grieving the way they thought that I should. And I've always been a person where I really don't care what other people think. And so it really wasn't about, well, if they think this is it, but them buzzing around me and in my ear so much. What it was for me was, I've never done this before. So
Right.
I have no clue or idea if I'm doing it right or not. So I want to
Sure.
involve a professional so that just so I can see, am I okay or am I doing this right? Because maybe they're onto something, maybe they're not. But I didn't
Yeah.
feel like I was doing it wrong. I was just doing it like I do most things, the way I wanted to do it in my own time, in my own pace, which is how
Yeah.
I've always been, which is usually an issue for other people. But since this was a situation that was very new to me, I was like, I'll give it a shot, and that was part one, right?
Well, thank you. You answered one and two. The
Okay.
third one is what were some takeaways that helped you during the initial grieving process and even today from the counseling
Um.
sessions?
So what I, to be honest with you, the grief therapist didn't really show me or teach me anything that I didn't already know. She just was an extended support system. So
Okay.
basically, to tell me there's nothing wrong, you're fine. What she did do is give me information that let me know certain things like, okay, well, these are the steps, and they do not have to be done in a certain order. A
Okay.
lot of people think they have to be done in a certain order, depending upon who you are or the situation. It can be done in any order. It can be done in any time frame. What you do want to watch out for, though, is that you don't prolong any step. Now, where that becomes to be catchy is because depending upon the situation, nobody can really tell you how long, but there does become a point in time where what you don't want to do is stay so long in a certain step to where it's you are using it as an excuse not to move on with
Oh,
your
okay.
life and not to
Okay.
do that. You have to do, you always, whenever you're in one of the steps, and it may take some people longer in one step than another, but if you're done with one, you're done with one. But here's also the thing about it. You may think and or feel that you're done with one, but as most people will know that are listening, the step that most people are most familiar with, because it's what we're socialized to associate with grief, is the mourning and the crying and the depression or whatever. And so that is the most recognizable step. So a lot of times, if people aren't seeing that from you, they will think that you haven't done it, or that you haven't done it enough. And at the end of the day, that was some concerns around me. But again, some of that I was exhibiting, and like I was telling you, in that time before, when he was incarcerated, because I had lost a piece or a part of me. And so now, even though he was still physically on this earth, now that he is no longer physically on this earth, I didn't necessarily have to mourn once he finally did pass, his physical being not being here anymore. It was, and what I still wrestle with now, it's what's in my mind. And so when I say what's in my mind, I mean, I wrestle with and I mourn. Basically, when you have a child, you have dreams, hopes, and aspirations of what they would be, what they could be, what you would experience, how this is going to be. And so all these plans, that now those plans are over with.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you will mourn those things. So, for an example, right after he passed away, a really good friend of mine who was very supportive of me, she invited me to her son's graduation. And because of the incarceration, and that was something that as a parent you think about, when they go to the prom,
Sure.
graduation, if and when they get married. And so it's like you do have to, at some point in time, those things now are in your mind, because they're all thoughts and ideas, and you're waiting to see how all that's going to pan out. Well, that's over with.
Yeah.
That's over with. And so I told her, I was like, I appreciate the invite, but that's a trigger for me right now. And I
Sure.
know you didn't mean to or want to, because people don't know
Right.
what's going to be your trigger. But that's a trigger for me right now, because that is a memory that most people cherish, that I thought I was going to be able to have, that I'm not going to be able to have. So it's things like
Yeah.
that, that,
Okay.
at the beginning, I could not be in, I could not attend the graduation and be celebratory of that, whether it be a
Sure.
college or high school. I couldn't attend a prom, champagne party, or whatever. Now I can. Not gonna.
Yeah.
And when I say I can, is it gonna bring up a feeling or a memory? Yes, but when it brings it up, I can handle it. At that
Sure.
point in time in the beginning, I just couldn't even think or fathom of being there. Now I can be there, and I can also sit there with the feelings, and not get up and walk away, or have or be mad or upset. And it's all disappointment. It's disappointment that,
Sure.
I wanted to experience this in a certain way, and I had these fantasies of how I would experience, and I wanted to see how it was going to play out, and I'm not going to have the opportunity to see what happens with that, or how that goes.
Yeah.
And yeah, so basically, getting back to, I'm sorry, to the original question, it was things like that were the support of the therapist would tell me, that's okay. That's fine. I know I did not, to this day, my nephew stays in his room. And this is just laziness, but there are clothes still in the dressers of the
Okay.
drawers in the room.
Okay.
At one point in time, I just couldn't, anything in that room that was him or of him or that represented with him, I couldn't throw out or get rid of. But for some reason, the clothes that are in the drawer now, they're just in there because I just left them in there. But yeah, there was a time where with certain things like that, I just
Okay.
couldn't,
Yeah.
even though I know he's gone, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of the grieving process of
Yeah.
when you are ready to let their belongings and their things go.
Sure.
Um, that, you know, no one can really tell you it's been a week, it's been a month, it's been a
Yeah. Like
year.
when is the right time? Like,
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Now, when you going on, now here's, because this is going to be my next point where I'm going to probably contradict myself. But when you're going on 10, 15 years of not letting stuff, of not letting stuff go, it gets, you know, you're treading on thin ice. And why I said I might contradict myself. Part of the biggest issue that I have that I
Mm-hmm.
try not to do with other people that I engage with who might be going through grief or grieving a loved one is
Mm-hmm.
don't judge another person's process and their situation. You know,
Yes.
let them do the stages in the order that they feel fit to do them, whether they have therapy or counseling or not. Um, don't try to speed up their process because you feel like they're on one stage a little bit too long. Everyone, not everyone, but for the most part, most people find their own way, you know,
Yeah.
and most people
Yeah.
find. Now, I do know there are some cases and there are some situations where some deaths hit people so hard they never recover and they never get over it. But to be honest with you, that's not everyone and that's not most cases. There are cases like that. And so I guess what you would want to do is make sure that that's not you. And if you see that you're in a space and place where that is, then seek help. And what I
Yeah.
mean by
Even the
help is
means to. Yeah.
get somebody to help you through the process, you know?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So with that, how was the experience of communicating with loved ones and people who wanted to be there for you? Like, were there certain phrases, questions, conversations, etc., that were annoying or irritating or hard to have sometimes?
Um, so one of the things, there were some friends that there is so there were some friends that were very adamant, like, I'm your friend, I'm gonna be there for you. And it was kind of like, but it was at a time where I just wanted to be alone. And
Yes.
they pushed and they pushed and they pushed. And I don't hold that against them and I don't say that's wrong. I will say everyone is different because I
Sure.
speak to other people and I have family members that I've spoke to and they're like, they don't want to ask someone to be there for them. They just want people to show up. And so now I'm telling you of a situation where I'm telling you not to show up and you showed up anyway. You on my,
Yeah.
you know, and so what I had to do is be mature enough in that situation to say, they are just trying to be there for me and I can't get mad at that. And so I let them come and they didn't do too much and they weren't too pushy. So, but I will say one of the things, so I am saying this, that did not bother me. But what I will say as a cautionary tale to people is, in anything, just like when it comes to when you're in a relationship, you know, don't necessarily do what you want to do or what you would want people to do for you. Take yourself out of the equation and situation. Know your loved one or your friend well enough to say, this is what they need or what they want. And I'm going
Yeah.
to give them what they need or what they want or what they requested. One of the things that did bother me was there were several family members, for some reason, that felt the need to let me know. And I don't know where this came from or what this was about, but that they weren't there and they did not
That
want to
they
be
weren't
there for
what?
me. That they weren't there for me and they did not want to be there for me. That they wanted to be there for my mom. And my everyone knows that my mom was very, very close to my son, and that my mom was also um, pretty much like a second mom to him, and everyone knows that she
Yes.
took it really, really hard. And so
Yes.
maybe that was their way of saying, somebody has to be there for Barbara, and so I'll do that. But to phrase it in that way, well, I just want to be there for Barbara, or I'm just here for mom. I don't know. For some reason, that did kind of bother me. Now, I appreciated it because it was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, if they're there for her, then I don't, you know, I don't have to worry about being there for her. But even though, that may be it, just because of how our relationship is or was, I was there for her,
Of course.
because I
That's
don't
a
think
that's a
any.
tricky situation.
Right, because even in the notification, I got the phone call and they're telling me, and so she's like, "What's that? What has he done now?" And then I told her, and as I'm telling her, I'm getting a little emotional. But if you know your aunt, and if anybody don't know, she's really dramatic. So it was so dramatic that I instantly just had to and instinctively shut down my emotions to handle and get her under control because she was a mess, so like, and so I had to really like be there for her, and and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not complaining about that or anything like that, but like you were saying, it gets tricky, as to
Yeah.
what do you do and what don't you do and how you do certain things, and there really isn't a handbook. So it's something
Sure.
that you learn what to do and what not to do. And so even when I say what I said about the people letting me know, I don't think they had any malicious intent or anything like that. But I will speak out and say this to just say that,
That was
if you're ever
interesting.
in another situation like that, um, try not to let the person know, because at the end of the day, my initial response that I didn't say out loud is, that ain't her son. That's my son. So if you're trying to be there for somebody, be there for me, and that's you having a
Right.
moment of selfishness in the moment. And so I just feel like there are certain things that, even if that's how you feel and that's what you want to do, you can keep those things to yourself. You don't have to
Sure.
let the person know. And so for me, it was like me and my mother. But let's say in another situation, if you're going with a couple, a husband and wife,
Yeah.
don't let the husband know, I'm just here for Priscilla, or just let the
Yeah.
wife know, I'm just gonna be here. Be there for whoever you want to be there for, or be there for both of them. You know,
Right. But you don't have to vocalize it where it could hurt the other person.
right? And it
Yeah.
didn't hurt me to where I was balled up in a corner crying somewhere. And maybe they felt like you have a lot of people or to be there for you.
Mhm.
I'll be there for this person. And so at the end of the day,
Sure.
I'm saying just be there for whomever you're going to be there for. You don't have to make statements or announcements.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I wanted to know personally things that were triggering that people would say because sometimes you just didn't know what to say or and it's almost tied to the question I asked earlier like he's in a better place so that lessens the grieving like when people say things like that well at least he's not suffering anymore Do phrases like that help or not so much, or it really just doesn't do anything to you? It's like you welcome everything.
Because I've been on a journey when it comes to religion, spirituality, and all that kind of stuff, I've also learned to have, whether I agree or not, a respect for where where another person is coming from. So,
Sure.
in me knowing the people or knowing what they believe in, if you're saying something that I don't agree with, um, I'm gonna just let you say it, especially knowing that me knowing what you believe, you're coming from a good place,
Sure.
or what. So that didn't
Okay.
really bother me. Those things don't bother me. But I actually did not have a problem with he's in a better place because that
Okay.
was in agreement and an alignment with what I believe. Um,
Okay.
that
Okay.
he is and that he is not. And so, one thing for me, a friend of mine, the same friend, this is sad, the same friend that invited me to her son's graduation, maybe a year or two ago, her son passed away in a tragic motorcycle accident. And so,
Mm.
when he passed away, um, we were having a conversation, and she was just kind of like, how did you move on? Like, how did you? And for me, I said, you have to find a way to whatever and whatever it is that you believe, whatever your belief system is, you have to make up a story in your head or your mind and find a way to be at peace with it, no matter
Yeah.
how much you don't understand it, no matter how much you don't like it, you have to find a way to be at peace with it, which means, even I told her, even if it's make believe, but find a way to make peace, make a story that gives you peace with the passing. And
Mm.
so what I
Mm.
came up with, because if you'll spend a lifetime trying to make sense of something or being mad at the way that happened or it's not fair. Why did you take this, believe this, take this one, believe this one, or he was so young, or this and that.
Sure.
So a few things that I used for myself was, one of the things that I do believe is that everyone comes to this earth to teach and learn. And we don't really know what it is that we're supposed to teach and learn. And some people know exactly what it is that they're supposed to teach and learn. But one thing that I do believe is that once you have learned all of the things that you're supposed to learn and you have taught all of the things that you are supposed to teach, you're done. And if that's at a young age, an old age, in the middle, or anywhere in between, that sums up your time here. That I
Mm.
taught what I was supposed to teach, I learned what I
Yeah.
was supposed to learn, and now I'm done. And so
Yeah.
with
Interesting.
him, because everybody would say, that gone too soon, and oh, he was so young, whatever. And I just feel
Yeah.
like at 18 years old, he learned everything that he was supposed to learn and taught everything that he was supposed to teach. And he taught
Yeah.
me so many things, taught my mother so many things.
Sure.
um and just speaking to his friends and people that knew him, they taught him things, he taught them things. So I feel like, he did what he was supposed to do. So I have
Sure.
that. And then I also feel like I'm very realistic. And so
Mm.
what was going on with his life and where he was at and all the
Mm.
things that he had going on, as a parent, you want what's best for your child. And
Sure.
so what he was dealing with at the time of his passing, that's not what I wanted for him, and I don't think it's what he wanted for himself. So you can't be
Yeah.
selfish. And so I can't be so selfish that I say, well, I wanted him on this earth for another 10 years. Well, realistically, was that 10 years going to be of him suffering or him not at his best or being
Yes.
in a good place or at his, and all that? So at the end of the day, because he did die of a drug overdose, um, he was the reality that he was living in. It was overwhelming for him. It was too
Sure.
much, and he was trying to escape. And so if whatever you believe, God, the creator, if they said, well, let's give him peace, he deserves it. And let's
Yeah.
give him peace at 18. Because with everything that's going on now, the trajectory that he's on, he deserves peace. Let's give it to him. And so I feel like he has that. He has peace.
Yeah.
And I would much rather him have peace than for me to say, well, he's still alive and he's still here, and my memories can somehow be executed, but at what cost?
Sure.
What does he
Sure.
have to endure in order for my memories to be executed? And
Yeah.
so I much prefer for him to have his peace. So looking at it like that makes me not mad at the situation, not
Yeah.
upset, not bitter, not feeling so much of a loss because it is a loss. And now I know you had asked me before, I think about him constantly. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about him, but I don't think about him in a way of, oh my God, he's not here. It's always, if he was here right now, what would he say, or what would he think, or if I'm doing something in my life, what would what sarcastic comment would he make, or when I do certain things, he would be proud of me, whether he would tell me to my face or not. Like he would be proud of this, or this is me being able to set an example for him, which is what I always wanted to do or tried to do, even though I may not have
Sure.
done that in the best way. That was always the intention, because
Yeah.
we have our own stuff going on. Because, like I said, we are all here to learn and to teach,
Yeah. Sure.
whether we're in a parental position or not. And just because we are someone's parent doesn't mean that we are not still learning,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and to piggyback off what you just said as far as thinking about him, you also shared with me that you have moments where you feel like he's near. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, well, so I was speaking to another family member, and they have these moments connected to a loved one where they feel like they're near and they come to them in the form of an animal. And so once they shared that with me, I didn't think much of it within the conversation, but I was sitting in the car one day right before I would start work, and where I sit, I'll park the car, and there's this ledge that comes to above eye level in the way that I'm parked. It's like a brick wall, but you can see over the wall, and it's stopped because it's kind of like a short wall. And so these birds would start coming, and for some reason, every time I parked there, a bird would come, like right after I had this conversation with her, and I just felt like that's him saying what's up, and so I just be, and
Yeah.
it's a smaller bird, it was a smaller bird, and
Yeah.
so in my mind and in my head, like I said, you create and you make up these fantasies or whatever. So in my mind, the fantasy is that he's checking in up on me, and we had a moment or whatever,
Yeah.
because I have been told by other family members that he's tried to contact. Um, and I wasn't, and probably still, I'm not open to receiving it in that way. So maybe that was the way for him to. That was a way that I am ready for, or that I could
Sure.
receive whatever
Yeah.
message that he was trying to give, or whatever. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. And audience, I want to tie another show into this one with the throat chakra, and I shared this story with when Dr. C was on the show dealing with the throat chakra, and the story actually is pertaining to my little cousin Jonathan. Me and Jonathan, we weren't close. I've always lived in a different state. But John, his father, the guest today, has, like I said, has always been in my heart. And his mother, my aunt, my aunt Barbara, both of them, I can't even describe the love that I have for these people. And my aunt Barbara called me to share the news with me, and then asked me to call the different family members and share the news. And she couldn't get it all the way out, but I knew exactly what she wanted me to do because she then started crying, right? So I start, by calling her only sister, my mother, and I started with her, and then I just started calling the family that I grew up with and know of on my maternal side. I called all of them, and I kid you not, you guys. And I've been kind of emotional during this episode, so just bear with me. I'm kind of shaking, but as I was calling different people, I started to lose my voice. By the last call, I barely had a voice, and when I woke up the next morning, it was totally gone. And at the time, I was a massage therapy instructor. I still went and taught, but it was really interesting trying to teach without a voice. It was very interesting. But what I'm getting to is that emotion that was tied to it, the news, what you're saying over and over again from that heart center. If it's not uplifting, it disempowers you from your voice, from that throat chakra perspective. And so I just wanted to connect the stories for those that are following as the chakras spin, that this is the story that I was talking about. So yeah, I wanted to say that. And then I'm going to say a lot moving forward, just to ask a simple question, but hear me out, you guys. So I have lost loved ones, but no one as close as a child. So audience and John, please know that nothing I say right now is to compare experiences, but just to share my own and this concept that I'm about to mention. And also for those who do not know, I do not have any children, okay? So when I care for someone, I'm in, and they know it. Okay, they know through my words, actions, encouragement, support, love, etc. All right, this can be platonic, romantic, and or familial. And back in the day, like around my 20s and 30s, I used to be crushed, devastated, and or depressed when certain bonds were broken, when I grieved relationships that had ended. Okay, it seemed like it would take me an insane amount of time to heal from the separation, even if it was something that they did negatively towards me. It was just crushing for me. And yes, I am talking about people that are still alive or were still alive, specifically past romantic relationships. Okay, just hear me out. Okay, just hear me out. I have a point with this. So I don't remember when I first heard about energetic cords. It was probably sometime in my 30s, though I didn't really start acknowledging and adapting the concept to my life until my 40s. Anyway, so in relationships, there are exchanges of energy, emotions, feelings, expectations, to name a few, which create these energetic cords between you and said persons. Okay? Imagine an umbilical cord between a mother and the baby, except this cord is energetic, it's not physical. All right? And depending upon the type of relationship, length of the relationship, and the depth of emotional ties, multiple cords can form between you and another person, where some are thicker than others. Now you can cut these cords, and this is what I'm getting to, okay? Many times the concept of cord cutting is to help release emotional ties and or sever attachments to individuals who have negative dispositions. Okay? And so I've done this throughout my life, cut cords, okay? This exercise is so powerful to me from my experience that there have been times where I had to think twice, where I prolonged, like I knew I had to cut it, but I prolonged it before going through with it because of my experience has been so positively successful in undoing the emotional tie. And I wanted to make sure I was ready to really just sever that emotional tie with whomever I was doing that cord cutting with. Okay. Some thoughts on cord cutting as it pertains to deceased loved ones is that it can help to sever emotional attachments, right? Thus assisting in the grieving process. So I said all of that to ask this, Jonathan. With this concept in mind, and I'm not asking if you'd want to consider cutting a cord or not. I'm not asking that. What I'm asking is, would you want to sever the emotional connection? Why or why not? Because there's still some form of, emotional connection.
I'm not interested in doing so. I simply because for how I feel now, the emotional connection that I do have with the emotional connection that still does apply with my son isn't unpleasant.
Okay. Yes.
It's if it was, I would be very much so interested in doing so. Meaning, like, if I feel like I can't function, if I feel like it has a hold on me, if I feel like it is something that's causing me not to show up as my best self within this time, within this moment. If it was something that the feelings that I feel attached to him, if they were negative and sorrowful or mournful or things like that, then I would probably, not probably, I would be interested in doing so.
Something like that.
Yeah, now see, I am also an Aquarius too. It's and so what you're talking about with the connect, I've had to do that with friends. When I feel like the friendship is no
Yeah.
longer benefiting us mutually, and I've
Sure.
also had to do that in intimate romantic relationships as well. And so, without getting too deep or too far into it, as an Aquarius, they say our cutoff game is mean. And so, but that, we can detach and cut off easily. And I will say, I can do that, and I have done that. But in all honesty, it wasn't easy, but I can do it,
Okay.
and I have, and I
Sure.
will. Mhm. I don't, at this point in time in my life, though, I don't feel like it is necessary when it comes to my emotional connection to my son. But if it did get there, I call
Yes.
you. I call you and reach out to you for your services.
Ah, yeah, because I didn't mention it, but I do perform cord cutting
You do everything.
services.
You do
Yeah.
everything, girl. You're a Reiki woman. You do everything.
I'm Reiki woman. Okay, so lastly, you guys, okay, we're flipping the script all the way. Okay, let's briefly look at grieving past selves as we choose love of self and putting self first. Okay, I am always saying, to thine own self be true, and to mine own self I am true. Okay, and I have found that choosing me hurts others sometimes because of the dysfunctional people pleasing person I worked so hard at maintaining to execute. I've kind of like put that aside. So, Jonathan, you and I talked about this once, and you mentioned grieving or missing your past self. Will you please share that perspective?
So I, for several years, was a people pleaser, and basically, I always wanted to make sure that people liked me. I always wanted to make sure that it wasn't that they liked me. It was more so that like I did gain. If I felt like people thought highly of me, I felt like I was doing life within the right way. And so, so if somebody thought I was a good father, a good son, a good person, a good this, a good that, I felt like, okay, I'm hitting my marks. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do in life. And if
Yeah.
anybody um, expressed that I wasn't in any way, shape, or form, that would rattle me.
Sure.
And so to gain control of my own autonomy and to gain control of my own self-respect and what I think about myself, I had to say, people will say things and you might repeat it and you might believe it, but it didn't really start to hit home until these last 5 years of my life,
Okay.
and I'm 48. And so within the last 5 years, specifically the last 2 years, it really has hit home where you can't please everyone,
Right.
and so you can be jumping through hoops and you can be doing more than 100%, you can be doing 200%, and there's going to be somebody saying that that's not good enough, or they
Sure.
didn't like this part about it, or they didn't like
Sure.
this, or find a way to make whatever it is that you're saying and are doing that is actually really positive, they'll find a negative, and if your self-worth and your self-esteem is attached to those people or those kind of people or other people, you're doomed. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, it wasn't until I just got to a point where I was kind of like, I'm tired. I can't do this anymore. There's got to be a better way. Like, I'm tired
Sure.
of performing for everything and everybody. At some point in time, I have to switch the audience, and the audience is not everyone else. The audience is me. So,
Sure.
how do you feel? What is your approval of what Jonathan is saying? And if I like it, my mom said this all the time, and it's kind of sarcastic, but if I like it, I love it. You know what I'm saying? So for an example, like, and it has helped me to move in a certain way where unless I care, and rarely do I care now, I don't ask other people their opinion. I remember when I was designing clothes, and I would make something. I didn't ask people, well, what do you think? Do you like this or do you like that or whatever? I don't care, because if I put it out, I like it. And if I like
Sure.
it, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if you like it or you don't like it, because there'll be something that I don't particularly like or I don't particularly care for, and people will rave over it. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying? So at the end of the day, it's all about, if there's something that you put your heart and soul into, and at the end of its manifestation, you are pleased and you are happy with it, that's all that matters.
Right.
And so when you realize that, you start moving in a certain way, but then there's this human side that we have, that there's a grieving process that you have for that little kid or that young man or that younger version of you who was like, hey, y'all see me? Hey, y'all like this? Y'all like that? Because at the end of the day, you look back and you may be disgusted at the thirstiness of the person, but at the end of the day, the heart was pure. the
Sure.
intentions the intentions behind that person and that person's heart of wanting
Yes.
to please people, because a lot of times it'd be like, oh, you do so well, you do so much for others, and it wasn't, for the most part, for their approval. A little bit of it was that, but sometimes, when people go above and beyond, it's like you do for others what you would want others to do for you. And if you look at it from that perspective, like, that's a dope person. That's good. But
Yeah.
you get wise enough to know that, like, I'm doing all this for everybody, but ain't nobody doing anything for me. So now I have to
Yes.
start doing things for myself. I have to start pleasing myself. And then I also have to be aware of, it's not a tit for tat, but like, I can't go above and beyond for people that give me the bare minimum.
Yeah. Yes.
We have to match energy. Or
Yeah.
I can't go above and beyond for people that don't like me or can't stand me. But I'm trying so hard to either get their approval or get there to like me, because the approval is, especially if you tie it back to, some of it is um, about them liking you or thinking that you are a good person, or but some of it also is to you thinking that, this makes me a good person, because I want to be a good person. I want to be considered a good person. And at the end of the day, when you realize that you don't need them to validate that,
Sure. No.
you don't need anybody else to tell you you're a good person. If you actually know that I move with pure intentions, that I don't mean any harm or any malice towards anybody. I'm not trying to set nobody up. I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody or whatever and stuff like that, And basically, when you just start taking care of yourself the way that you conditioned yourself to take care of everyone else, it's a hard, it sounds amazing,
Yeah.
but then when you actually start to put it, you'll start feeling guilty for taking care of yourself, because you're so
Right.
used to taking care of everybody
Other
else.
people. Yeah. That's
You
deep.
know,
That's so deep. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that because I just really wanted to. I know I totally flipped the script, but sometimes as we grow and elevate as human beings, that we do. Um, we grow and we might grieve our past selves, but and it's okay to do that, but just kind of stay focused and still choosing you. I know for me, similar to you, John, I didn't want people to not like me. I always wanted to be liked, accepted. I didn't want people to be angry with me. But now I'd rather be a little bit uncomfortable and living my truth than be uncomfortable and not living my truth? So, yeah, this has been so great. Thank you so much for sharing your heart with us, Jonathan, and creating space for As the Chakras Spin. Before we close out, please share with the audience any social media platforms or email addresses, etc., in case someone would like to contact you with any questions or to connect in general. And if you just feel comfortable sharing social media, that's fine.
mm-mm.
No, no social media. He doesn't
no,
want
no,
to connect with anyone.
no reaching out, no connect.
Well,
I'm
thank you.
taking care of
Thank you. Look,
myself.
look.
Look, I'm taking care of myself. I can't take care of nobody.
Say it, be it. I love this. OMG. I love this. He is so my family, y'all. Ooh, I love this. Well, again, thank you again, Jonathan, John, my boo, for taking time out for As the Chakra Spin. And thank you, audience, for tuning in as well. See you next time.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you.
Thank you for listening to As the Chakras Spin. You can find all episodes at TashiKDCooper.com. To learn the health of your chakras, you can schedule a chakra reading directly on my website. Until next time, peace.